Hi guys, we're here. It's the 6th edition of the Leader Livecast with the Global Wellness Summit on Instagram. And today we have such a thrilling guest. It's so fun. We're interviewing Jean Godfrey June, who is an icon in the beauty industry. She's a longtime magazine editor and a successful author. But for the past 5 years, she's worked at Goop. Have you heard of that? A lifestyle brand. So we're going to hear some really cool things about what Goop is doing in this time of COVID. But first of all, let's just have a little reminder about who Goop is. In 2008, Oscar-winning actress Gwyneth Paltrow launched Goop from her kitchen as a homespun weekly newsletter with 10,000 subscribers. And today, all these years later, it's worth $250 million. And the brand includes books, podcasts, conferences, skincare and clothing lines, and now even something called Goop Fellas, a portal for men. So let's just see if Jean is asking to join us. Let's see. There she is. Okay, we'll get right to it. It's so exciting to meet someone that comes from a long time in my life as a PR person. Beauty editors were really thebomb.com, and let's have her join us. You know, Goop has so much going on right now. They remind me a lot of the Global Wellness Summit. It's funny because they have in Goop health sessions, which are conferences that they've had for 8 years now, in-person gatherings. So, of course, all about wellness. And, of course, they are really and truly having to adapt like the rest of us with in-person meetings. So I'm going to ask Darlene to reach out to Jean because it says she's there, but I don't see her yet. So let's see where she is. And then Goop every Wednesday has a 1-hour wellness session with their favorite experts. So this Wednesday, I'm going to be tuning into their intuitive wellness person to help read our own bodies and get through this together. Now let's see. Let's try it again. If Instagram Live, I tell you every single time there's something, but it's exciting when it happens. So I get a reward. Here we go. It looks like it's happening. Jean,
hi, how are you?
I'm good. I know, isn't it hard to connect? I tell you. I'm going to turn up the volume. Jean, where are you right now?
At home, like everyone else.
In New York City or where?
I live north of the city.
You live north of the
outside.
city.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I saw on your Instagram, it was so cool that you guys have built a sauna. Is that right?
Yes, we had an old shed in the backyard, and it was kind of perfect timing. My boyfriend found a on Craigslist, like everything you needed to put together a sauna for $500, and we like it was it's he like he kind of needed something to be doing anyway, and like he put it all together, and it's the best. I can't recommend it more highly. Craigslist.
Oh, I know. I'm telling you, if we just knew the power of those, those contrast bathing exercises right now. But you know what? While we're talking about, let's get right into it, Jean. You know, you and I were comparing notes before this of how we might have met. When you work in spas, like I have for my whole career almost in hotels, beauty editors are, going to the mountaintop and getting them to come and see your spa and write about it. So we know that we know the same people, and we thank you for all your years of defining what spas are. And also, I love Goop's section of the directory of spas. I look at the ones in my neighborhood and I'm like, why didn't I know that about them?
So good.
You guys are right on. So
Thank
Jean,
you.
let's jump right in. When in our 5 questions in 10 minutes, when did you first realize that COVID-19 might be more serious than you first thought?
Well, I certainly all of a sudden one day, we were kind of like, it's approaching New York. I work in New York. I work from home a lot of days, but I'm in the office. Goop has small offices in Union Square, and we were all going to work, and then there was this one day where a bunch of people didn't show up to work, and we're like, oh, that's crazy. And then like an hour later, we're like, no, we're crazy. We need to get home. It was just that it's like all of a sudden I once read somebody's description of war coming to a country, and it was like, 1 minute everything's fine, and the next minute some, soldiers are marching past. It's just it's a very, it's a switch.
It's like a light switch. I called a friend in Italy and he said, be ready, Kim. It happens from one moment to the next.
Yeah.
And so that was a real eye opener for me. But all of us try to just talk openly about this to help each other, especially with anxiety and mental wellness. So
For sure.
would you mind sharing some of the feelings you've had during this pandemic?
I mean, I've had every feeling, from, panic and dread and certainty that I'm coming down with something, all those feelings that we all, as well as, there's relief. I'm very lucky to still have a job, and that, just that, being grateful for that, and then also being like, oh, I'm so overworked, and people assume you actually have lots of time, and because lots of people are furloughed and all, there's actually more work happening. And so it's I've had a huge range of emotions, but mostly I've felt very grateful for my good fortune.
Yeah.
It's so random.
I know. Do you look around your house sometimes? I mean, we're stuck here, of course, and I do my walks and I try to exercise and do all that and call friends. But I think, God, are we lucky to have this roof over our heads right now?
Yeah.
And if only we could come to your sauna, Jean. But anyway, now tell me, on the flip side, what are 3 things that have given you hope during this time?
The thing that gives me the most hope, and it's sort of in 2 ways, is the natural world. All the, the reports that are slowly coming back about the air being better, the sea being better, the noise of everything. I think it's an important time to, hopefully we will all look at how our lives changed and what we liked about how they changed.
Yeah.
We live in this system, that we
Created.
that we create and we agree to. And like, even our economic system is at the moment, we're all deciding, oh, this is a terrible situation, and we're all gonna, not have money anymore, and that's what we need. So the recovery, even the littlest recovery of the natural world where it is, I hope people see that. And it certainly gives me an enormous amount of hope. And then, just as you were mentioning walks, having life go by slightly slower. And when you go outside, certainly here where I am in the Northeast, the spring is really cold this spring. And so it's very slow. And spring is usually my least favorite. I don't love it. And this year I'm seeing what's beautiful about it, and how it's like really in slow motion, like way more than usual. And that, just being able to, we all have some sort of access to the natural world, even if it's just like, walking outside in your house, and the ability of the natural world to make you feel better is just boundless, I think.
Boundless. Yeah. And I will tell you, I always tell the story. My son and I finally, in about 3 weeks in, drove out to Malibu, and we pulled up at this beautiful beach, and he's like, Ma, there's water spouting right off the beach. What's going on? And I went, it's whales. And you never see whales there. So it was really something. But yeah, if we can just remember, and I have a lot of comments going by now saying Happy Earth Week. Let's remember. And the earth is taking a deep breath right now. So can we remember what that feels like, right?
Yeah. And can we reorient ourselves to making more room for the earth? Because if we don't, there's not going to be any room for us.
That's so true. It's so true. It's a stark and amazing reminder. So there's so much we could say in this category, Jean, so I'll just give you the floor.
Okay.
Share things that Goop has done or you've done personally for your employees or for a charity or for help during this time. That might be an inspiration.
What Goop is doing specifically, I can go through, and then I can also sort of mention what we do a lot with the frontliners, Frontline Responders Fund. And the way we've been doing it is picking different products and giving 25% of sales of the product each week. And we obviously content wise, which is where I am, we constantly are updating sort of things that we feel are worth giving to and supporting. There's just an enormous range of charities, and we, on our site we have huge stories about it, and they're really helpful. They focus like how do I want to support people now? So
by the way, the Wednesday session, 1 hour wellness session, asks you to contribute to Doctors Without Borders on Goop, and that's really cool, especially now.
We have a franchise that's sort of like a Goop Convention called in Goop Health that we usually run twice a year, once in LA and once in New York, and they're these really big, incredible days that people to participate in, and we're trying to do a version of those once a week online.
Wow.
Called In Goop Health. That's what the Wednesday thing is. And we have some, all our best experts. So, giving that to people, I feel like there's no better time than now, certainly. We've also are addressing a lot of COVID stuff on our podcast, the big podcast, not my podcast, the one with Gwyneth and Elise. And so that's another, we're trying to be as much of a resource as we can.
So let me tell you what I had noticed on your site. It's so cool that, like, last night I couldn't sleep too well. So I thought, I need to think how to fix that in the future. And there's a resource. Scoop has an article on it. So just to at least know you have someone that's vetted things with people like you behind it. And I do love your article about glowing during a Zoom happy hour.
Well, we all, you're sitting there looking at yourself and you're like, oh, it's very true. I think the other thing, if it applies, there's people that we've done podcasts and articles with, the Gottmans, who
I love the Gottmans.
They're amazing. They're
amazing.
incredible therapists for relationships. And there's a thing that they often remind people is that it takes five positive comments to make up for one negative. The negative is so much more powerful in all of our minds. And I think it applies to work. And it's something I'm working on, especially this time where, you've got a little less busyness, like it's not quite as crazy, to focus on that. And the people you're working with to try to adhere to that 5:1 ratio is not easy. And yet it's really worth doing. And similarly with the people you're living with, I think it's such an opportunity right now. It's almost, how people go away on like couples retreats or family therapy. You're all together and you can use this time to be like, how can we, appreciate each other more? Because that's why we're all together,
Yeah. There's every range. I mean, people with little kids, it's a way. I saw a video of a little girl saying, please, Poppy, take me outside. Please take me outside. Let me out of this room. And then my 20-year-old, a guy, he was working and he can't right now. And it's got to be frustrating for him. So we really do have to understand each other. I think that's so great, the relationship side. So, Jean, one thing I want to tell you is I love your podcast. And I was so tickled to meet you because, we do the Global Wellness Summit podcast. And it's so much fun. It brings me such joy what people share. And I heard you interview Norma Kamali, my hero, the fashion designer.
My hero. I love her.
And I decided to wear this in her honor. This is a jumpsuit that she made, and she always likes animal prints. So this is all because of your episode on, what's it called? Goop's Beauty Closet? Is that it?
It's called the Beauty Closet. Yeah, it's on the Goop channel, and it was really fun. And Norma was one of the greatest interviews I ever did. I mean, she just you want to be her when you grow up, and she's got it figured out, and she really has some wisdom to share,
She does. And are you adapting to COVID, or are you recording now, or did you take a break?
We took a break. We'll see afterwards. We'll, resume, but it's just, there's essential information to get out there at the moment, and we're focusing on that with the big Goop podcast with COVID experts and
That
you know,
makes
and
sense.
also mental health people. You know, we're trying to really be a resource for what people need most.
Yeah. Well, tell me the final question. I hate to let you go. We've gone a little over time, but I don't care, Jean, because it's worth it. What are you doing now to bring yourself joy in a time like this?
I a couple years ago, Gwyneth gave us all the opportunity at Goop to take TM, Transcendental Meditation, and I took it, and I do it, and since COVID has happened, I do it more regularly. You know, I just do it when I first get up, and then hopefully do it a second time. I'm less good at the second time, but that really makes a huge difference. Any kind of meditation. I don't think it has to be TM, although it's very helpful. TM, any kind of meditation makes you realize eventually, do it enough times and you'll be like, oh, my thoughts are a little bit more separate from me. And I think it's just, especially now, an incredibly valuable practice. And I once had a yoga teacher that said, even very practiced, meditation masters, can't always stay focused. And she said, if you ever feel like you're having a really hard time and you can't meditate, you're just too, light a candle. It sounds so,
No, I've heard
101. This. But if you light a candle and you look at the flame, it puts you in a, in a phase, a state of mind that's very much like meditation. TM is very much about accepting the thoughts that come while you meditate and not being like, oh, that was bad. That was terrible. I did a bad job. And I think that's the most helpful thing about TM. So yeah, meditation, number one, getting outside and exercising. I think we all, the entire universe has discovered the joy of that. And
yeah.
I think, when you can get outside, it's great. But if you can't, I mean, I do Jivamukti online yoga classes all the time. That brings me a lot of joy. And then the other thing is spending time with the people that happen to be right in front of me. Whether they're right in front of me on a Zoom call or they're actually the people that I'm in the house with. I think we're all, I don't know, it gives me a lot of joy to recognize that these relationships are important. I mean, of course, we all kind of know that in the back of our head, but when we are like, oh, I guess I need to talk to this person and see their face.
No, I know. It's so shocking, the realization that hit you. Like, have I taken the time to keep in touch with people that deserve it in my life, that have been the, touchstones in my life? And I want to tell you, you have to also laugh, right, Jean? Because last night I laid out my yoga space and my stretch and Pilates and whatever in the middle of the living room. And I thought, now I'll do it. I got up this morning and our puppy peed on my mat. Thank you. So the best laid plans, right? Okay, Jean, before we go, can you please give us a couple beauty tips for while we're in lockdown here? What should we remember?
Okay, beauty tips for lockdown. Number one, I would say, if you've got a bathtub, use it. Like, Americans don't really take baths as a culture, and just 5 minutes in a bath. I would recommend 20, but it just really does change your perspective. So I think that's beauty tip number one. Number two, like, whatever it is that makes you feel pretty or presentable, or do that thing, not just before a Zoom call, but also like before dinner, or we experimented with just getting a little dressed up before dinner, not like super fancy, but like I tell my boyfriend, like, oh, you should wear your black jeans and your navy sweater, and he's like, oh, you should wear that it makes you just presenting yourself still. I mean, the rule I keep having for myself is, if I wonder whether I should wash my hair, the answer is yes. And I can't learn that lesson. Like, I can't.
Well, you should. I can't wait to share with you the comments on this. One of your old roommates said hello,
Oh
and
my
someone just
gosh.
said do Epsom salt bath with face mask. And people have
Oh,
really been excited. Somebody wants to write for you from London, I see too. So anyway,
good.
Jean, we promised to make it short. It's just been a delight. We want to welcome you to the Global Wellness Summit family, and
Oh,
I
thanks
just
for
have to
having
tell.
me.
I forgot to tell you that 2 years ago in Italy, Susie Ellis, who founded the summit, is always thinking and thinking. And she said, Kim, would you head up a table? She has conversation starter topics at lunches sometimes. She said, would you take the Goop table? And I was like, oh, what? Oh, okay.
Mm,
So I did all this research on Goop and I wore a pink jacket and I wondered
mm.
what kind of arguments or, bashing or criticism will we get? Are you kidding? It was a love fest. It
Oh,
was
so
a
good.
it was a beauty product icon from Italy. It was the woman who founded the organic pharmacy in London. She
Oh, I
said,
know her.
you know
Margot
her? She
Marone.
said
Yeah. Hmm.
Gwyneth came to her 20 years ago and believed in her and was one of the first to recommend her products, and it made a difference in her business. Someone went to school with Gwyneth. Anyway, and somebody was from Silicon Valley and really depended on Goop. So the point is, I love the way Goop withstands criticism, takes it with sense of humor, and
Well,
keeps putting
that's the
out
one thing I'd
information.
say that I've learned most of all from working at Goop, and I've learned it from Gwyneth, is, as you know, as we all know, she's an incredibly polarizing personality. People are like, I love her, I hate her.
Yeah.
And she, you know, every, especially woman, has a version of that. It's much less amplified, but the way she, will have some crazy controversy, and in that moment we'll end up making more money on the site, and she'll be like, look, what can you do? And it's something, there's something about the way she handles being this projection of other people's imagination, where she realizes that it's not her and it's not what she's doing, and that she just has to be herself in that moment. And I think as women, we are always under that scrutiny, um, to some degree, and so we might as well just be ourselves, because we're not going to always be popular, no matter what
And
we do.
yet, and yet you're doing important work. I just read an article in the New York Times about face mask pros and cons a couple of weeks ago. What did they end with? You can complain about Goop all you want, but Gwyneth wore a mask a month ago,
Yeah,
long ahead of
yes,
anyone
that was,
else,
I
right?
saw that, and it was
Wasn't
true. Yeah.
wasn't that cool? Okay,
Yeah.
I've got to shut up because I could talk to you all
Okay.
afternoon, but I'm going to let you go, Jean. Thank Darlene Fisk for arranging this, or my wonderful partner
Thank
at
you,
Swell
Darlene.
PR, and tune in to Beauty Closet Podcast and Global Wellness Summit Podcast, and we look forward to seeing you after we wake up again.
Afterwards, yes, hopefully
Okay.
so. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
All right,
See you.
bye.